First and foremost, thank you so much for inviting me. And if I had known you were going to eulogize me so well, I might have passed away and been dancing on the ceiling while this was going on. So thank you so much, AJ. You are my brother from another mother. I love you. You and Denard. You got to me. There's so many friends of mine here. And in truth, all of you as Unitarian Universalists or people that have some connection to this faith community, you're my brothers and sisters, and hugs, virtual hugs. Summer, we're in this region together. So exciting. Yuri, I owe you many calls and much love. Listen, this is something like, I've been approached by many to tell this tale and to write the book, but it's one of those things like, giving birth to a baby, I understand it's hard. I've never done it, but I understand it's hard. It can be a hard experience, and trying to let go of the narrative of your life so that others can sift through the pages and underline things and circle it. Like if it's your story, that may not be the easiest thing in the world to do. But I do it freely and happily with a community as this because I feel safe. Now, that safety didn't happen overnight. I've been an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister for 21 years, but I believe that first sermon I gave in seminary 26 years ago in Washington, D.C., because I was a member of that famous All Souls congregation. Approximately 50% of the membership was Black. That was the blackest spot in Unitarian Universal, right? It was amazing, and it was Chocolate City back then, and I believe the president of Howard University was there. We were living large. We had a Black minister. We had a Black music director. And that was the only place in all of the Unitarian Universalist world that anybody could say anything like that, right? So big ups to All Souls, and they've gone up and down and had their trials and tribulations, but that's an amazing place. And I'm gonna tell you more about it. Just gotta plug that place when you go to Washington, and all of you need to go to Washington, D.C., because the Smithsonian, you paid for it. Go check it out. Go eat some mamba sauce on Georgia Avenue. Go to Ben's Chili Bowl. But the things about and specifically about All Souls, I had the desk that James Reeb had when he worked at All Souls. You understand? I had James Reeb's chair and desk, and I felt his spirit in that space. And he's one of my heroes, because anytime a European American would go put their life on the line for communities of color, for people of color, I'm gonna hold you near and dear, you to multiply, right? And then I found the letter at All Souls from Martin Luther King Jr. thanking All Souls for offering him their pulpit in like 1965 or something. It was early. They wanted King to come and be the minister at All Souls. And he said, despite the fact that he was in alignment with us theologically, can you imagine MLK Jr. being in alignment with Unitarianism theologically, but that culturally he needed to stay where he was? That Southern Christian leadership thing and that Black space required him to set aside his personal wishes and do the right thing. All right, so I had to go there. So who am I? I'm this Jamaican from Harlem. My mother's family's from Jamaica. And I could say I'm a Caribbean or West Indian because I know I've got family in Barbados, but I don't know them. So I'm gonna go with the American thing. And whoever your mother is, most likely or most often you're closer to those relatives. It's not every family that's that way, but right? And from a psychological standpoint, the primary object in most people, the primary object is their mama. right? The one that kind of imprints you. So mama imprinted me, and coconut and soursop and peas and rice and Ray and nephew. And if you don't know Jamaica, you don't know, but these are things, right? Yeah, it's curry, man. I need it, and I need it desperately. But my daddy's from Louisiana, from outside of Baton Rouge, in Coupé Parish. So I'm gonna tell you, how do I identify? I'm African American, I'm Jamaican American or Jamaican, but I'm somebody that's Black, white, Native American, and Chinese, all right? You understand me? The rich vitality of the people that give life to me, huh? I'm somebody, and I didn't need Jesse to say it, but I knew I was somebody that has something to say in this life, because everywhere I ever traveled, people would try to say, well, you don't look like, and you. And then I had the audacity to lose my color and turn into the Pink Panther here. So like, listen, Michael Jackson was telling the truth. It happened with those hands first. The glove, wear gloves too, but I had like driving gloves. Don't you want to take your driving gloves off? No. So I'm this child of Harlem, right? My daddy's classmate was Langston Hughes. Thurgood Marshall sat at my table. You understand? My mom was friends with Althea Gibson, and she knew Billie Holiday. We're from the Harlem Renaissance, and I'm a child of all that that brings. When I made correction, because I was in law school in Washington, and when I made the course correction to leave that pursuit and to go into ministry, it was with a gnashing and tearing of teeth and spirit and possibilities. My parents were lawyers in Harlem. We had a law practice. I could have been a wealthy Black man in Harlem. But I chose to go this path in ministry, and I chose to go towards Unitarian Universalism because I have an interfaith sensibility. Why? Because of the many people that I am. I am Celtic. My name is Gordon Clay Bailey. Those are not some white slave masters' names. Those white folks married my Black folks. I did the research because I'd have changed this name. I wouldn't carry no slave master's name. But these three names place me in the Welsh community, in the Scottish community, and in the and also in the English community. Some people say all those people are one and the same, but I'm not going to get into that. This Black thing, though, about being a West Indian and being an African American, sometimes you got to ride on a fence, because some people say, oh, I want them coconuts to go home. Don't take offense, Denard. We coconuts are cool. Yeah, man. And some people will say, what's wrong with them Black Americans? They had nothing but opportunity. Why aren't they achieving? And I say, you're West Indian, you don't know the history of this place. So we've got struggles within our community, from the outside of our community, and yet there's this enormous, loving, powerful force that gathers the POC, the diverse and revolutionary Unitarian Universalist multicultural ministries together. And I coined that name. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Drum was my name. I gave it to them. So understand that my granduncle, Egbert Ethelred Brown, was the second Black minister within Unitarian or Universalist community. He's a Jamaican, and he learned about us, and he set sail for America to go to Meadville Seminary when it was in Meadville, Pennsylvania. Letters, if you ever go to Meadville, Lombard, and read the letters that are housed there that he wrote to the Unitarian Association, it'll break your heart, because they told him Black people couldn't understand this thing, that we weren't academically, intellectually, or otherwise capable of grasping the greatness of Unitarianism. OMG, wouldn't you like to give somebody a right? Because what are you talking about? You must have lost your mind. Nevertheless, he came with a dream, And he started a congregation in Harlem, and the people of the Harlem Renaissance attended that congregation. He never had a building, never became wealthy, died a virtual pauper, but he did something amazing. He shared this notion of Unitarianism, because they hadn't merged yet before he dies, of Unitarianism, many of people that hadn't been exposed to that. The ideals around Unitarian Universalism in either denominational understandings were largely kept away from Black people or Latinx people or any number of Native, Arab people. I don't know someone who was the first Arab Unitarian Universalist. That's some research we need to dig. John Bruciaga, the first Latino minister. Gordon, they told me not to tell anybody I'm a Latino. That was in 1965. Well, if you saw him, he's a better looking Ricky Ricardo. What else could he be but a Latino man? He's a handsome man, that Juan Bruciaga, right? So, dear friends, why pastoral care? Why clinical pastoral education? Why did I think I had the right to do Unitarian Universalism in Black? Well, I'm here to tell you, it was the only thing that made sense to me. Again, I'm a son of Harlem. Again, I went to an HBCU. Again, if you knew my mammy and my pappy, you'd know all I did wasn't done so I could serve white folks. Now, it just so happens that along the way, I fell in love with a white woman. I had children. This is my family. And I live in this multicultural kind of life. That's what I was open to. But it wasn't what I set sail for. When I went to West Seminary, and the only reason I went there instead of Howard Divinity School was because those Methodists gave me a 50% scholarship. You know, I'm no fool. You better take a break when you can get one. So I set sail in ministry to learn all I could and go back to Harlem with the skill set that I saw a man named Floyd Flake develop. Floyd Flake, me, pastor, African Methodist Episcopal pastor that had a church in Queens, New York. He then went to Congress for 10 years, and Floyd Flake now has about a square mile of controls in Queens. They built a New York City public school. They built a senior center. They built senior housing. He took his theological and spiritual training and turned it into life-giving force for his community in Queens, his Black community. I looked at Martin King and Andrew Young and these other clergy as the single best examples of what could change a community. See, clergy people have an ability to read people's lives like nobody else. I can be a Budinsky in your life. See, Denard, I want to know all about you. And come on here and sit down with me. And I got an expense account. I may even take you to lunch. And you're going to tell me all about you. And you see, it's in the narrative, in the storytelling, in the speaking your truth, that chaplaincy and pastoral care became my vehicle. So in seminary, I do field placement. Well, they placed me at All Souls, which made sense. I was already a member there. But All Souls at that time was going through and they put me to do pastoral care ministry. What? There were about 500 members back then. So I was in charge of discerning how to best serve that community in those days. After that experience, I decided I wanted to do a residency in chaplaincy, because pastoral care ministry, the ability to sit with people one-on-one or in small groups and get them to share their lives was the greatest gift I could ever imagine. I'm nosy. I'm somebody that loves people. I'm very gregarious. And being able to spend my life not preaching at people, standing up on a pulpit and pontificating, but actually learning about you and sharing our lives and figuring out how we might support one another is what like send light bulbs off on me. Wow, you mean I could get to do that? I had been a bartender. I already had been doing it, but for chump change and late hours. And I could do this in the daytime, get paid for it, wear a suit every day, look good. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Pass the punch. I found my life story. And once I went and did a residency 1 year, Johns Hopkins, I knew I was on my way. I could go anywhere with the credentials of a clinical pastoral education. You're credentialed by one of the bodies, ACPE, CPSP, the College of Chaplains. Once you get your credentials, you could work for the federal government in prisons, you could work with hospitals, you could work with nursing homes. You could create your own ministry, because what if you decided to open up a storefront and say, we're giving pastoral care / spiritual care, because everybody's not a Jew or a Christian. That word pastoral is directly from the Judeo-Christian world, right? But you do the spiritual care of a community. Heck, I could apply for grants and take care of the seniors and the children in the group homes. It was like, boom, so much. So the vehicle of chaplaincy, and I go back to seminary, graduate, and I'm thinking, well, where am I going to go next, right? The folks at All Souls want me to stay there, but they got that youngster that one of our guests spoke about, and he didn't need me. He didn't need me. He and I had graduated from seminary about the same time. I didn't think it was right for a congregation to call a new minister and have a minister that was a contract minister there hovering around them. You people like to hover, watch what you're doing, talk about you, huh? Spread rumors about you, say vile things about you. It happened even amongst quote unquote clergy. So I left there and went to New York. Well, why did I go back to New York? 9/11 happened. Boom, and I'm in the middle of pastoral care and chaplaincy, and I'm a disaster chaplain in Lower Manhattan dealing with death and destruction. My life will never be the same. I've served congregations from New York, Washington, D.C. to New York to California, and now here in Las Vegas. I spent 17 years as a chaplain and then a director of pastoral care or chaplaincy at Harlem Hospital. The years at Harlem Hospital were the greatest years of my professional life, in that 7 days a week, we offered a Unitarian Universalist service in the chapel of Harlem Hospital for 2,500 staff and 350 the beds. That's the biggest UU congregation I ever served. And I had people from every stripe, Jews, Muslims, Christians, Baha'is, Jehovah's Witnesses. Everybody came through my chapel because their loved ones were in that hospital, hurt, broken, bruised, maybe dead. And they needed a space to compose themselves. They needed a kindly word. They needed somebody that would hold their hand. Thank goodness it was before COVID. I guess I had a mask and a plastic gown, and I'd be, nah, don't touch me. Hit my elbow. You know, because it must be incredibly difficult to provide a ministry of presence that requires a gentle touch, that requires close proximity, leaning into somebody and being with them. It must be incredibly hard in these days to really love one another. I pulled from our hymnal while I was sitting here listening to you, and first I selected Dr. Du Bois, and then I said, no, he's a little harsh. Let me something more gentle. And I came upon Alice Walker. Y'all like Alice Walker? That fabulous goddess that she is. And she says, love is not concerned. Love is not concerned with whom you pray or where you slept the night away from home. Love is concerned that the beating of your heart should kill no one. And I'm gonna use this word kill in an expansive way, because it's not the physical taking of life, because there's far more killing of the spirit that takes place than the physical killing. My grandmother's hands, my wife Lisa, that black white woman, that white black woman that's talking about, she gave me this book, Racialized Trauma and the Pathways to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. If I could express to you the brokenness that I have in Unitarian Universalism when I first engaged in the ministry, you might say, well, why'd you stay? It may be the very reason that this is all the melanin I have left, because there was so much pain being foisted about by colleagues who you thought would have had your back, but they didn't. By congregants who said, what are you doing here? There's a Negro church around the corner. By people that would continually say, well, you know, Black people just don't want to come into our congregations. No, the reality is Black folks don't exist. Latinx people don't know you exist. Asian Americans don't really know you exist, because when you go to the seminaries, nobody ever from Unitarian Universalism goes to the non-UU seminaries to even introduce what and who we are. Nobody builds, see Catholics, charities and Jewish services, Lutheran hospital, every other denomination that's a mainline in America does social service deeds. But we Unitarian Universalists are not there. We're not serving inner city communities on a regular basis. We're not in the rural South. We're barely in Mississippi. We're in Jackson and a couple of other places. But we're in Mississippi, the blackest state in America. It's probably got almost the fewest UU congregations other than this state of Nevada that I'm serving. You understand? We purposely have not made ourselves available. And if you were at GA when Brian Stevenson spoke a few years in New Orleans years ago, he told us about proximity. You must be in relationship to people. And we have not done that. Our hymnal has a few Black readings and what they would call Negro spirituals, but it's lacking. It's so lacking. You know, it's got too many antiquated Christian songs that we've reworked, and the dead white man syndrome goes on and on and on and on. Back to pastoral care ministry, pastoral theology, back to what I think AJ wanted me to really get to. So based on who I am and what I am, multi as a DNA human being, but West Indian and African American with deep Southern roots, Louisiana, Harlem, and Jamaica. Jamaica, man, it makes me so proud. You know, Kamala Harris, first generation Jamaican American. Colin Powell, Jamaican American. Look, big up. We came here to conquer. We don't play. But beyond that, reality that by studying chaplaincy or social work or psychology or becoming a psychoanalyst, which I went to the Harlem Family Institute for 5 years taking coursework so that I could understand what makes Jamal Jackson tick, what make Kizzy Watkins go, right? I wanted to know what makes Black people function and operate. And I wanted to understand it from a Unitarian Universalist perspective, because why are there so many Blacks married to white women? You see, there are reasons to grasp what's going on. Almost all the people of color in the UU world are in multicultural mixed relationships. Listen, there's a reason for these things because of that first principle in health and dignity. We're not falling in love with a color or a particular type, although you might like booty or breast or curly hair or whatever it is that floats your boat. But the deepest reality, the most profound thing about this kind of ministry that I found to be so compelling is that it's healing. Pastoral care ministry, CPE, clinical education, teaching clergy how to go along the bed or the prison cell or the nursing home, doing life stories with our seniors so they can unpack the 70, 90, or 100 years of life. These things change you and alter you. Any helping professional amongst you can take a CPE unit, so please do. But healing ministry, a pastoral functioning that aims to overcome the impairments and the restoring full life you encounter. Being able to be that balm from Gilead that will reach out and touch somebody's hand. Listen, we're just trying to make this world a better place when we can. You understand? So then this pastoral ministry is sustaining. It's helping hurting people to endure and to transcend circumstances. Racism that's been part and parcel of every aspect of American life from the moment our American family landed here. We talk about anti-Black sentiments, anti-Native sentiments. The Native American community was decimated. Us Black folks have multiplied while we've been here, despite the hardship. But the Native community, some places, those folks are gone, maybe forever. Cultures wiped out, history gone. Of people that were beautiful and lived in harmony with the setting. This pastoral care ministry is guiding. It assists perplexed persons. We help people. We don't make the choices for them, but we help them make confident choices by unpacking the issues that they're holding on to that keep them from saying, well, maybe we ought to take mama off life support. Mama's body is retaining water now. She's blowing up. She'd be unhappy. We can't even bury her in her best dress. She done blown up. You know, you say, oh, how that? But that's real. When people haven't ever done the theological work, how about this? Building your own theology. How many of you have done it? And if you haven't done it, do it, because you need to have that theological, that spiritual so on the tip of your tongue that you're ready to articulate it with every relative and friend you encounter, because Unitarian Universalism needs to grow. Yes, I'm proselytizing. We need you. We need growth. We can be more impactful when there are more of us. Pastoral care ministry is reconciling. We seek to reestablish broken relationships. So often, congregations need a chaplain. They may hire a music director. They may hire a religious education director. They may hire an associate minister. Those are all important. But if you know human beings as well as I know human beings, we say and do some of the most heinous things to one another, right in congregational settings. Carving door that is Unitarian Universalism is that because we bruise and hurt people. Enter, they stay for a minute and they're gone. Most of them don't have the thickness of skin that we obviously do, or the internal fortitude to deal with it. They come because the theology says this is an open-ended place where you can figure out who and what and why you are within a community of caring souls. But it isn't always the experience of people of color, nor of white folks. There are more white folks that exited than there have Black folks. They don't stay. No reason to stay. We don't practice radical hospitality everywhere. Give somebody a bagel and some coffee from a an organically produced farm. Well, all right. I wanted some fried tofu or fried chicken with some mac and cheese and some cornbread. I wanted some sweet tea. I wanted something good. Feed somebody. I want some collard greens, some cabbage. Give me a meal. Forget the donuts and the bagels. You're killing people. Kill them at least with good food. Listen, I make jokes, but the seriousness of our situation compels me to remind us that we may have thrown the baby out with the bathwater. We don't want to be Christians anymore. At least many UUs. We don't want to be theists. We don't want to be this. We don't want to be that. We don't want to have a label, right? But it's out of the context of the religious community that predates Christianity, predates Judaism, predates Islam. But the vehicle that's brought it forward, this country, in the context of the United States, are those Abrahamic faiths. And the building of churches was then followed by the building of houses, nursing homes, homes for children. Yes, the religious structures of the world, and particularly of the United States, have done more negative things than I care to recount. But I also want to say there's a power of nurturing and caring and loving and giving that's available to us when we take those principles of ours, soon to be 8, right? Soon to be 8 principles, those 7 principles, take them to heart, build on them, work them into the county you can. In this month, we're dealing with deep listening at the Las Vegas congregation. And I said to the people this morning, I said, I can hardly believe that as often as I've been taught not to start to answer someone before they finish talking, that it's the fallback of most human beings not to fully engage with you, not to see who you are. Yes, I'm a Pink Panther. I'm old now and gray, and I'm two-toned, but Jamaican, I'm an African American. And some folks said, I can't believe you're not a white guy. Well, listen to the tonal quality of my voice. You haven't actively listened to who this man be, huh? Deep listening would enable us as a community of universalists to journey with one another through the peaks and valleys and plateaus of life, to nurture one another, to guide our way to better living and right relations, because we actually see, hear, smell. If you're single, I guess you can kiss and taste, but I'm a married man, so I can't be involved in all that, only my wife. But you've got to take in the totality of study. We need to be able to, in our ministry, bring in the whole of the human family and preach and teach about Rastafarianism and Zoroastrianism. We need to step into a world where we're not appropriating, but we're educating and expanding people's horizons on a perpetual basis. There's a saying in I guess the UCC, in there, something that says world without end. No, I want this to be mind expanding without end. That this Unitarian Universalist faith of ours gives us a platform from which to go as far as we humanly can go. At the heavens, the very space dust that all of us are made from can inform us. I believe that our DNA has critical information, tells us about things. Every time I'm in the state of Virginia, I feel like I'm home. Well, I've done all my research. My Black ancestry, my white ancestry, and my Native ancestry all come out of what's the state of Virginia and migrate to Louisiana. Something about Virginia says I'm home when I'm there. Something about being with different peoples over the course like Nigerians. I've befriended more Nigerians than I can tell you. And my brother, who's a federal attorney, says, don't do it, watch out for them. But I'm here to tell you, Nigerians come to this country with the highest level of any immigrant to the United States. And I'm here to tell you that Nigeria, the most populated country in Africa, is amazing. And there was a reason that I was drawn to them, because I'm 30-some% Nigerian. Who I be. Nigerians come to Jamaica. Nigerians come to Virginia. This nurturance that I want to leave you with is critical. If events like this could be in every region of our country, we could grow our people of color, because they don't know that Unitarian Universalism is for them, because they've never explored it, and they never explored it past the white context that it's always in. Most Black ministers, I'm sorry to say, in my time, right, when I came into this association, there were only 12 Black ministers, only 12. That was in 1991, the first meeting I went to. They acted as if they were wearing whiteface. They were just carbon copies of the white clergy that they were following. Some UU ministers are afraid to say God, and some were afraid to be Black. And I'm here to tell you, I'm radically Black in my pink and polka dotted face. I'm unapologetic about it, and I bring it every go, because I've got a love that's embracing, and I've got a narrative that you need to hear so you can be informed. So, dear brothers and sisters, for the love of interfaith ministry, for the future of spiritual care and pastoral care within Unitarian Universalism, for the hope that one day our denomination may be more than 90-some%, that we can maybe get some balance in there and reflect the diversity, the great diversity of the United States. For the POC community that gives so much to try to embrace our white brothers and sisters, and specifically to those Black folks who for years kept the faith and waited for a generation like us changes. See, Black clergy gave up their status to create drum. I was there for that vote in Palo Alto or somewhere in Northern California, where we decided that we would dismantle the African American Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association and create something that was for all the clergy of color. For those leaders that had, for Bill Sinkford, my mentor, for Peter Morales, my friend, I don't agree with everything that Peter did or said. Which one of those Colorado congregations did he serve? Peter and I come along at the same time as ministers. For Patricia Jimenez and Jose Ballester, the founders of LUNA, the Latin Unitarian Universalist, right, Association. For Grubbs and bringing all of his Native American wisdom to us for generations. Who's my favorite that was on the, that was, Yuri, somebody help me. AJ, who can help me? Summer, who's the Japanese minister who's up in Los Diablos? Who is she?
Leslie Takahashi.
Leslie Takahashi. For bringing all of her awesomeness and the great breadth of the Asian community. Summer, for you in the Middle Eastern Arab community, for all that we could be, pastoral care / spiritual care is the #1 thing we need to give to one another, because if people know you see them and you're compassionate, they will stay. And when we're lacking in empathy, dare I say love, out the door they go. So dear brothers and sisters, my white brethren and sisters, my people, brothers and sisters, we've got work to do. We've got a world to change. We've got a nation to set back on some kind of course that has principles and values and morals. We've got so much power, and let's take advantage of what we've got. We've got this medium of the internet. We've got radio broadcasts. You ever hear the Reverend John Gilmore? Find him on the radio, internet radio. We've got the sisters of all stripes and every, what I didn't say I'm he, him, his, of every variety in the human spectrum, doing the good works for each of us. I should say now, go now in peace, but we got questions and talk back, and spirit bless you all. If you're a non-theist, may the greatest power in the human capabilities envelop you and nurture you too, because I want everybody to know they are loved. Amen.